Because this has a fridge defend on it, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the fridge defend. The reason we did this is because we need to remove this cover, which the screws back here, so that we can disconnect these wires here. What we're going to do is Norcold did a nice job of strain relieving these wires, so we'll cut that off. And then what we're going to do also is we're going to use 2 wrenches, just like you used 2 wrenches to remove the gas pipeline. And we're going to remove the line going to the gas valve. We are going to want to make sure that these don't get any contamination in them, so you can put some tape over them to prevent that. What I did was I took the strain relieves out of the controller. I disconnected the thermistor and the wire going to the control panel on the front. I disconnected the gas igniter right here. I disconnected the 12 volt heaters and the 110 volt heaters. And I disconnected the ground wire. All of those wires are marked, so it's easy to put it back in. Plus, I removed the gas valve, and then last but not least, I'm pulling off the water collector tray, just like this, so that the cooling unit can come out easily. And the reason I took this out is I want to clean this, because see all that stuff in there? Yuck. I mean, things are living in there. There's pollywogs. Now what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to take out the cooling unit. So we're going to start at the top here, and we're going to identify the parts. This is called the condenser. And what it does is it condenses the ammonia. And this right here is the snap switch for this cheesy fan here. I highly suggest our blowers. So what I do is I take a marker like this and I put an arrow on, because there's a screw there, there's a screw there, and there's more screws down below. So I will go ahead and put my driver in for the screw into my drill. This is all exciting stuff, I know. So, and I'll put it in the right direction. Voila, I took the screw out. I like to lay the screws in the pattern that they came out. And you'll see on this screw, it's got a star washer on there. So now that I've taken the control board off, the gas valve off, the wires going to the heaters, I want to point out that this right here, they fondly call it the foam pack, and that's what it fits inside the refrigerator. I've taken all the screws out that hold the cooling unit in. And the last thing I want to do is that this is in a Winnebago, and Winnebago puts a leash on the refrigerator. I don't think it's for taking it out for a walk to maintain the park rules. I think possibly a refrigerator fell out, so they started putting a leash on them so that they couldn't go too far when they fall out. And this particular refrigerator has these little caps that I popped off with the screwdriver in my hand that went over these screws. These screws are what hold in the what's called the evaporator, and that's the part that the cooling unit uses to cool the refrigerator. So there's also a set of screws down below here you can't see. So there's a set of screws both in the freezer and in the refrigerator portion, and you take and you remove them. And I like doing things in order, so I start by taking out the outside screws, just like that. But we don't have to show you taking out screws, because you know how to do that already. So now you can see the refrigerator compartment screws. They go through this aluminum heat sink is what this is called. So this absorbs the heat and it takes it out through the evaporator. See inside here, there's a set of screws in there. Okay, but before I take those screws out, because you know how to unscrew a screw, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, you know, that stuff. I want to point out this one thing to you. This refrigerator is held into the RV by these set of screws going in this direction. They've got these little caps over them. The only difference between the Norcold and the Dometic and the different models of Norcold and Dometics is that, for example, Dometic has a lot of times an eyebrow board that's up above, and there's 4 screws that hold it in. You got the idea. Something holds the refrigerator in from the front side. What I did was I used my handy dandy knife to go around the circumference of the foam pack. Then what I did was I found a couple of special tools. These are my special tools. So what I have is a lever. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pry against this right here with this other special tool. So it's going to go right in there like that. And that way I'll be really careful because there is a lot of pressure on this. So you see how that just pops it right up? Boom, boom, we pop it right out. That wasn't too hard, was it? So it's a matter of putting pressure in the right place. You got to be really careful with what you're doing because there is a lot of pressure in these cooling units. Leave this up to the professionals if you have any concern whatsoever. So I can see that this cooling unit has got some plastic in here, and so we'll just take it right out like so.